There is a feeling many women know, that knot in the stomach that won't go away, that unease that appears for no apparent reason. Everything seems fine on the surface, but inside, something is broken. There's no evidence, no suspicious messages or calls, but there is silence, a void, a gut feeling that no matter how hard you try to ignore it, screams at you in moments of solitude. Infidelity rarely begins with a kiss. It starts much earlier. It starts when he stops looking at you the same way. When his good morning becomes automatic. When the laughter that once was spontaneous now feels like a poorly rehearsed script. It is in those small changes where the soul begins to sense that something is disconnecting. Often a woman doesn't need to find a hidden chat to know something is wrong, because before physical betrayal comes emotional abandonment. And that abandonment is felt. It's like being with someone who is no longer there. It's looking into the eyes of someone you love and realizing you're no longer in them. Like a flower that is still being watered, but has stopped blooming. Carl Jung said people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And that's how many men begin to betray. When they can no longer bear their own inner dissatisfaction, they seek in someone else what they don't know how to build within themselves. It's not love they're looking for, it's anesthesia for their emptiness. And you, as a woman, feel it. You notice how he no longer asks about your day, how his responses are short, hollow, how he no longer checks if you got home safe, but still expects you to care for him as always. That emotional asymmetry is the first crack, the first sign that you're giving more than you're receiving. And when you confront him, even with just a look or a gentle question, his attitude shifts. He gets defensive. He tells you you're exaggerating, that you're being paranoid. And that's where the most subtle form of manipulation begins. When your intuition is treated as a problem instead of being heard as a warning sign. You're not crazy, you're waking up. Have you noticed that something in your relationship no longer resonates the way it used to? And it hurts. Of course it does, because you're still betting on love while he's no longer even betting on the truth. Emotional infidelity is a silent betrayal. It's being physically present but emotionally checked out. It's abandonment that leaves no visible marks but empties you from the inside out day by day. And many times they hide it masterfully. They use work stress, I have a lot on my mind, fatigue. But it's not physical exhaustion, it's emotional distance, it's disconnection disguised as routine. It's the mind and heart being elsewhere while the body stays. It's like living with a ghost that still has a name. And you feel it because female intuition doesn't need tangible proof when the soul is already sensing the absence of love. There's something in the energy, in the silences, in the missing gestures. There's no more tenderness, no more intimacy, only a kind of forced companionship that feels colder each day, like a room that once felt like home, but now is just a place to sleep. And there you are, doubting yourself, doubting what you feel, searching for reasons to justify the unjustifiable, wondering if you are the one failing. You're not. What's failing is not your perception. What's failing is the connection that once existed and is now broken. And no one has the right to invalidate what you are feeling so strongly. This is the loneliest stage of a relationship, when there's no visible betrayal yet, but emotional absence already exists. When you're still fighting for something he gave up on long ago. When you cling to memories because the present no longer supports you, you are not alone. You are not wrong for feeling what you feel. You are becoming aware. You are starting to see. And though seeing hurts, the truth is much more freeing than living a lie. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always kinder than self-deception. A woman who listens to her intuition begins to walk toward her truth. And the truth, however uncomfortable, is always the first step toward freedom. Because no one deserves to be loved halfway. No one deserves to beg for attention, presence, affection, or respect. Trust what you feel, because if something no longer vibrates with love, it probably is no longer love. Infidelity doesn't start with one body on top of another. It starts when he shuts down emotionally and switches to autopilot. When he stays with you, but is no longer truly there. When instead of conversing, he replies. When instead of listening, he nods. When instead of seeing you, he looks at you without really seeing you. And you feel that emotional blackout as if suddenly the lights had gone out in the house where love once lived. Many believe infidelity is the result of a sudden opportunity or a moment of weakness, but the truth is that it's usually a process, a slow internal decay that begins with a silent disconnection, with the emotional decision to stop choosing you every day. It's a slow abandonment, almost imperceptible, that makes no noise but causes deep pain. Carl Jung spoke of the concept of the shadow, all that we deny in ourselves, what we repress and refuse to face. And when a man doesn't take responsibility for his shadow, for his emptiness, his boredom, or frustration, instead of confronting it within himself, he projects it outward. He begins to seek what he feels is missing, without realizing that what he's missing is not another woman, it's himself, because a person who has not met himself will inevitably get lost in others. Infidelity begins when he no longer has the courage to tell you that something is broken, when he prefers to keep playing a role instead of facing the truth, when he stays out of inertia while his soul is already looking for an escape. And the problem isn't just that he pulls away, but that he often tries to keep up appearances. He acts as if everything is fine, but there's no feeling in his gestures. It's like he's living on autopilot with a faded smile and an absent gaze. He starts speaking less, or speaks the same, but without soul. He no longer looks at you the same, no longer shares his thoughts or dreams. His "I love yous" are recycled phrases, and there is no more novelty, no curiosity, no real presence. He answers you while staring at his phone. He listens with part of his ear, but his mind is elsewhere. And you, of course, notice it. You feel like an echo. You're there, but you no longer resonate in him. You notice when he stops laughing with you, when the humor you once shared fades, when spontaneity becomes routine, when you realize you're lonelier with him than when you're truly alone. That is the most painful kind of betrayal, the one you can't see but feel every day. It's the absence of the soul while the body remains. It's the "I'm here" that means nothing. And there comes a point where even physical contact changes. There are no more caresses, or there's sex, but without soul. And that too is a sign, because intimacy isn't just about bodies, it's the purest expression of emotional connection. When that bond is broken, the body reflects it too. He either avoids you physically or acts with a strange intensity that doesn't fit, as if trying to cover up the absence of love with flashes of passion. As if desire were an excuse not to talk about what broke inside. And while all this is happening, you're still there, waiting for the man you love to return, hoping for the version of him that used to be more present, more engaged, more human. But that version is gone, because he has already started a journey outward without telling you. And that too is a form of betrayal. Leaving without warning, abandoning without goodbye, disappearing without moving. And that journey often starts with small things, conversations with someone who flatters him, harmless exchanges on social media, messages that seem meaningless to you, but they do mean something because they're the beginning of an inner disconnection that starts to show outward. Because when he starts hiding things, he's already stepping out of the relationship. Even if his body still sleeps beside you, every secret is a closed door between you. It's hard to accept, but necessary. Because many women lose years of their lives trying to revive a relationship that already died in their partner's soul. They persist, they try, they justify, they blame themselves. But they don't see that he already decided to leave. He just lacks the courage to say it, because saying it would mean taking responsibility. And many would rather make you feel guilty than face their own emotional cowardice. And this is where self-deception becomes your greatest enemy, because you don't want to see, because it hurts too much to face the quiet abandonment head on, because you still hope he'll change, that he'll come back, But here is the truth. When a man begins to betray, he does it first in his mind and in his energy. His body is just the last part to leave. Betrayal begins in the soul and ends in the bed, and this is the most important thing you need to understand. You are not the cause of his infidelity. It doesn't matter if you weren't perfect. It doesn't matter if you made mistakes. No one has the right to betray your trust just because they don't know how to manage their own frustration. An emotionally mature man speaks, takes responsibility, and faces you with the truth. He doesn't cowardly run into someone else's arms while you're still giving your whole heart to him. Infidelity begins in the soul, because that's where the decision not to be emotionally faithful is first made. Because being faithful is not just about not sleeping with someone else. Being faithful means caring for the bond, being present, choosing you, communicating, and honoring the emotional commitment. And when he stops doing that, the betrayal has already begun, even if there's no other woman yet, even if he still sleeps next to you. True fidelity is seen in intent, not just in the absence of physical evidence. So, if you feel something is broken, it probably has. If you feel alone in the relationship, it may be because he's already emotionally checked out. And the sooner you acknowledge that, the sooner you can decide whether you want to wait around for crumbs or pick up your dignity and choose your peace. Because you weren't born to beg for love, you were born to live it fully. It's not magic. It's not paranoia. It's perception. The body feels it before the mind understands it. And when a man starts to be unfaithful, emotionally or physically, he leaves signs, not because he wants to be caught, but because his energy can no longer sustain the lie. And there are patterns, behaviors that repeat in almost every case, even if the situations differ. And if you observe them clearly, without romanticizing, without justifying, you'll see that it was all there in front of you. Your intuition whispers what your eyes are not yet ready to see. Emotional absence disguised as routine or stress. It all starts when he becomes absent without leaving. He no longer listens, no longer seeks you out, no longer shows interest. His replies become cold or evasive. I've been really tired. I have a lot on my plate. I'm not in the mood. There's always an excuse, but the truth is, his energy is no longer with you. He begins to withdraw. He no longer shares how he feels, no longer tells you about his day, no longer asks how you're feeling. He starts treating you like a housemate instead of a partner. And when you try to get close, you hit an invisible wall. He becomes an emotional ghost hiding behind the routine. The house looks the same, the meals are served, but the soul of the relationship has vanished. Then come the digital secrets and defensive behavior. Where he once left his phone out in the open, now he guards it like a nuclear device. He changes his password, keeps it face down, takes it with him to the bathroom. If you ask something innocent like, "Who messaged you?" his reaction is over the top. "Why do you care? Are you checking on me? You're so jealous." And in that exaggerated defense is the confession. Because when there's nothing to hide, there's no reason to get angry. But when a parallel conversation begins, when a double emotional life is unfolding, the performance starts. He makes you feel invasive for simply following your intuition. He may even accuse you of being insecure, when in reality, he is the one breaking the trust. And that is emotional abuse, when someone twists your feelings just to avoid owning their actions. Changes in sexual intimacy. The bed doesn't lie. It may become cold or, on the contrary, unusually intense. Both extremes are signs. Some men, out of guilt, try to compensate with sudden, almost theatrical sex, as if trying to silence their internal betrayal with passion. Others simply disconnect. They no longer touch you, desire you, or feel you. Even the way he touches changes, mechanical. Without tenderness, without emotional connection, sex becomes a hollow transaction, or a way to maintain appearances, or worse, an act that makes you feel lonelier than ever. Because there is nothing more devastating than being touched without being truly felt. Unnecessary arguments and meaningless conflicts. He starts picking fights over anything. A word, a gesture, a minor forgetfulness. Everything becomes a reason to argue. Because he needs an excuse to pull away. Because he needs to justify his distance. because if he paints you as the villain, he can convince himself that he has the right to look for something better. This is called projection. He accuses you of what he's doing, blames you for what he doesn't want to admit, turns you into the toxic one, the dramatic one, the one who just doesn't get it. And so while you exhaust yourself trying to keep the peace, he builds a narrative where you're the problem and he's the victim. He may even begin provoking you on purpose just to create conflict, because constant conflict gives him an internal excuse to justify his emotional disconnection. Instead of confronting his betrayal, he prefers to portray you as an unbearable woman. He removes you from his future plans. Where he once talked about traveling together, now he makes plans alone. Where it used to be us, now it's me. He no longer says your name when he speaks of his future, no longer includes you in decisions, no longer sees you in his long-term vision. And you feel it. You see how you slowly fade from his dreams. The shared goals disappear, the common path dissolves, there are no more future conversations, and if you bring it up, he changes the subject, gets annoyed, or avoids it, because in his mind, even if he hasn't said it out loud, you're no longer part of his story. He starts shifting the blame and emotionally manipulating you. This is the cruelest part. He begins to make you feel like you're wrong for being suspicious, like you're imagining things, like you're the one breaking the relationship with your insecurities. He starts distorting your perception. He disarms you with phrases like, "Why do you always think the worst? You can't even trust me a little. You're the one ruining this. You're going crazy." And slowly, your intuition starts to lose its voice. You don't know whether to trust your feelings. You wonder if maybe you're overreacting. You stay silent. You doubt. You wear yourself out. And in that silence, he gains ground, because while you doubt yourself, he continues deeper into his betrayal. And the saddest part is that many women adapt to emotional abuse, hoping it's temporary, hoping he'll go back to who he used to be. But that version of him is gone. Your intuition is your soul's radar. And if something feels different, it probably is. You don't need a photo, a message, or a witness. Because the deepest betrayal isn't seen with the eyes, it's felt in the soul. In a body that no longer vibrates the same. In a sadness that shows up without reason. In laughter that no longer comes naturally. In the empty gaze of a man who once felt like home and now feels like a stranger. If any of these signs are present, don't ignore them. Don't normalize what hurts. Don't justify what dims your light. True fidelity is something you feel, and when it's gone, you feel that too. Because at the end of the day, as Carl Jung said, what you resist persists, and resisting the truth you already know only prolongs your pain. There's a moment in many relationships when you no longer know if you're seeing reality or imagining it. When something deep inside you screams, but everything outside tells you you're overreacting, you're crazy, you're the one ruining things. That moment is the epicenter of emotional manipulation. It's when he's already started to leave, but refuses to admit it. When he's already disconnected, but doesn't want to look like the bad guy. So what does he do? He changes the mirror. He distorts your perception. He plants doubts in your heart so you won't see what, deep down, you already know. And he does it with subtle but deeply damaging phrases like, "You're imagining everything. You always think the worst of me. You're impossible to talk to now. You're overreacting. You're trying to control me." Little by little, what was once intuition becomes anxiety. What was once clarity becomes confusion. And you start apologizing for feeling. You stay quiet to avoid discomfort. You begin hiding your emotions as if they were mistakes. This kind of manipulation has a name, gaslighting. It's a form of emotional abuse where he makes you doubt your own reality. He makes you believe you're being irrational when in truth you're being intuitive. It's a psychological distortion that undermines your self-confidence and dims your inner voice. And the most common way it operates is through avoidance. He avoids the conversation, withdraws, disconnects. And when you confront him, he responds with indifference, sarcasm, or anger. Never with truth, never with vulnerability. Example, you say, "I feel like you're distant." He replies, "There you go again with your drama." You say, "It bothers me how you act around that woman." He answers, "So now I'm not even allowed to talk to anyone?" You say, "I feel lonely." He responds, "You're always complaining." In this way, every time you express your feelings, he turns it into an attack. Every time you try to get closer, he meets you with coldness or mockery. Until you learn to stay silent. Until you get used to indifference as if it were normal. Until you start believing that, yes, maybe you are being too much, but you're not. You're feeling. And that's valid. Because no one should make you feel guilty for having emotions, for asking questions, for seeking clarity. Carl Jung said that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that's exactly what this manipulation tries to prevent, that you become aware of the darkness he's creating, that you confront him with truth. That's why he needs you to doubt. That's why he needs you to believe you are the problem. Another common tactic is silent comparison. Suddenly he starts talking about other women, saying someone else understands him better, listens to him without judging. And he doesn't do it to open an honest conversation. He does it to make you feel small, to weaken your self-esteem, to make you believe you're no longer enough. He might even play with your insecurities. You're being too sensitive lately. You've changed. You're not like you used to be. Don't be like that. It was just a joke. And so you start adapting. You start changing to please him, hiding what bothers you, trying harder, shrinking yourself so you won't lose him. And that's when you lose him even more and lose yourself in the process. Because emotional manipulation isn't about resolution, it's about control. It's about getting you to adjust to his discomfort, to excuse his mistakes, to become smaller so he doesn't have to face his own ego. And the most dangerous part is that he often does it with apparent calm. No yelling, no hitting. But there are gestures, silences, attitudes that break you from the inside. And the pain is just as real, or worse, because it becomes invisible to everyone but you. You know something's wrong because you can't speak without being interrupted anymore. You can't cry without feeling guilty. You can't say, "This hurts me," without hearing, "Stop being dramatic." And if someone asked you, "What's going on?" maybe you wouldn't know how to explain it, because there's no big scene, no proof, no clear drama. But there is a daily erosion of your self-worth, a slow collapse of your emotional safety. And the question is, how much longer will you let this continue? You weren't born to doubt yourself. You weren't born to beg for validation. You weren't born to silence your intuition every time someone doesn't know how to love you honestly. If a man can't handle an uncomfortable conversation, he's not ready for a real relationship. If a man needs to manipulate instead of taking responsibility, he's not emotionally mature. If a man turns your clarity into a problem, then he is the problem. Remember this, true love doesn't make you question your worth. True love doesn't silence you, it doesn't shrink you, it doesn't confuse you. If you're in a relationship where what you feel is more doubt than peace, more anxiety than trust, more fear than love, then it's not love. It's emotional dependency fueled by manipulation. Today is the day to reclaim your voice, to trust your perception again, to honor what you feel, even if no one else understands it. Because you do. And that's enough. A conscious woman doesn't need physical proof when her soul has already felt the abandonment, because the soul doesn't lie. It only gets tired of being ignored. There is a point in every painful story where the woman stops waiting, where she no longer looks for explanations, where she no longer needs proof. She simply wakes up. And that awakening hurts. Because it's not just about accepting that he no longer loves you the way he once did. It's accepting that you abandoned yourself too, that you stayed when he had already left, that you defended a bond where you were the only one still present. But that pain, though deep, is sacred, because it marks the beginning of your rebirth. Leaving yourself is not selfishness, it's emotional survival. It's understanding that a relationship where you have to beg for attention, for truth, for respect, is not love, it's dependency. It's fear disguised as hope. And you are not here to live from fear. You are here to learn to look at yourself with the same eyes you once hoped he would see you with. To become the woman who believes she's worthy, without needing to be chosen, to reclaim what you gave unconditionally, your time, your energy, your tenderness, because it's not your fault you loved, it's not your fault you trusted, but it is your responsibility to heal. And to heal, you must let go. Letting go is not hatred, it's not punishment, it's not closing your heart. Letting go is saying, I understand. I no longer need proof. I no longer want to justify the unjustifiable. I choose me. And that, woman, is the most powerful act you can do. Carl Jung said that freedom doesn't come when we change others, but when we stop reacting to their shadow. And that's exactly what you do when you stop asking someone to value you. You are stepping out of their emotional shadow. You are reclaiming your light. The intuition you ignored for so long now becomes your compass. That same intuition he tried to silence, that you yourself silenced, that intuition that always knew, is now your guide. And if you listen to it, it will lead you back to yourself. Because you don't need physical proof. You've already seen his absence, you've already lived his disinterest, you've already felt his indifference. That's enough. Because when the soul feels abandonment, there's no need for more. Now it's time to rebuild, to walk alone again without feeling like you're losing something. Because you're not losing, you're reclaiming. You're reclaiming your power, your dignity, your voice. You're done begging for what you deserve by right, mutual love, clarity, real presence. And yes, there will be days of nostalgia, days when you'll miss the good moments, days when you'll want to believe again. But on those days, remind yourself why you left. Remind yourself how you felt. Remind yourself what you silenced in the name of love. Then breathe and move forward. Because a woman who's been betrayed, if she doesn't break, she transforms. She becomes someone who no longer accepts half-loves, who no longer justifies absences, who no longer needs approval, who no longer waits, a woman who learned to see with her soul, and who no longer fears letting go of someone who already let go of her long ago. And if one day you love again, and you will, it'll be from a different place. From a version of yourself that's no longer afraid to say, this isn't enough. Who knows that peace is worth more than attachment? That self-love should never be sacrificed for someone else's love. So, today, don't cry for the one who didn't know how to care for you. You cry for yourself, for what you endured, for what you postponed, for what you deserved and didn't receive. Cry, and then wipe your face and carry on. Because this story is no longer his, it's yours. And you get to decide how it ends. You are not a victim, you are a woman awake. You are not hard to love. He simply wasn't ready to love with the depth that you love. You are not fragile, you are strong for feeling so much and still not hardening. And most of all, you are not alone. There are thousands of women waking up just like you, who are breaking out of self-deception, who are breaking invisible chains, who are learning to listen to themselves, to believe themselves, to rebuild, because it's no longer enough to survive. Today is the time to live in truth, and to live in truth means letting go of who no longer resonates with you. It means closing cycles, even if they still hurt. It means believing in yourself, even when everything around you tells you to doubt. Trust, trust, your intuition. Trust that inner whisper that says, no more. Trust your path, even if it's uncertain, because in the end, every woman who chooses herself finds the most important kind of love, the one that comes from within. And to etch this into your soul, a conscious woman doesn't need to see the betrayal with her eyes when she's already felt it with her soul. 99% of women don't do this, but men love it. It might sound extreme, but let me ask you, how often do you see a woman who seems to have it all, yet still struggles to form a deep connection with men? It's not about looks, money, or confidence. The truth is, most women overlook certain small but powerful gestures that make them irresistible. Today, I'll reveal 7 hidden secrets that men secretly crave but rarely admit. These aren't your typical dating tips you've heard hundreds of times. These are subtle psychological triggers backed by science and ancient Stoic wisdom that can transform how men perceive you, making you unforgettable without trying too hard. Imagine this. What if you could tap into subconscious desires most men don't even realize they have? What if you could effortlessly stand out from the 99%, not by chasing or proving your worth, but by understanding what makes a man feel truly seen, desired, and emotionally connected? Here's the thing. If you don't know these secrets, you're at a serious disadvantage. You could be missing the chance to spark an attraction that keeps him thinking about you long after you're gone. That's why you need to stay until the end. The final secret is the most powerful one, and once you understand it, you'll never see attraction the same way again. Before we dive in, do me a favor. If you truly want to master these life-changing techniques, give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the insights that could change your life. Let's begin with secret number 1, the power of touch before intimacy. Picture this. You're on a date, the conversation is flowing, he's laughing, and everything seems to be going well. But something feels off. You sense the connection isn't fully there. He's interested, but not entirely hooked. You leave, text him later, and then silence. No reply. What happened? Most women focus only on words to build attraction. They think a good conversation is enough. But for men, connection is not just verbal, it's physical and emotional. And there's an incredibly underrated way to build that connection. Touch. Not in an aggressive or pushy way, not in a way that makes him uncomfortable, but in a subtle, intentional, and deeply meaningful way. One of the most forgotten gestures that men crave, a simple, gentle massage before intimacy. It sounds basic, right? But here's why it's powerful. For men, emotional connection is just as important, if not more, than physical attraction. A precise, non-sexual touch says more than words. It says, I see you, I care, I want you to feel safe and comfortable with me. It's not about being a masseuse or trying to impress him. It's about presence, being in the moment, making him feel relaxed, understood, and desired. Not just physically, but emotionally. The key isn't just the touch itself, but the intention behind it. If you go through the motions, it won't work. But if you're truly present, engaged, and attentive to how he responds, he will feel it. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good woman should be. Don't overthink it, don't make it awkward, just live the moment and let your actions speak." Here's the raw truth. Most women never take the time to understand this concept. That's why they remain in the 99% who struggle with emotional intimacy. But the women who do get it create deep, lasting connections that men can't forget. In a world where most women seek instant gratification and shallow interactions, this kind of thoughtful approach is rare. But when you master it, you become part of the 1%, the women who truly understand what men desire on a deeper level. Now let's move on to secret number 2, flirting with confidence and respect. Most women misunderstand flirting. They either overdo it, coming across as pushy and desperate, or they hold back too much, afraid of making a mistake, right? Men love flirting, but only when it's done with confidence, subtlety, and respect. A woman who knows how to flirt effortlessly stands out because she creates an exciting energy without pressure. Flirting isn't about impressing him with forced jokes or exaggerated compliments. It's about keeping things playful, light, and attractive. Think of it as a dance. He leads, you follow, but neither of you should feel forced to move a certain way. The best approach is to tease him playfully and casually. For example, if he says he loves a certain type of food, you might respond with, "Really, that's the best you've got? Clearly, you've never tasted my cooking." It's a subtle challenge that keeps the conversation interesting and sparks a fun kind of competition. But here's what matters most. Good flirting is not about seeking approval. The moment you try too hard to impress, you lose your edge. Men are naturally drawn to women who are comfortable with themselves, women who can joke around without needing validation. This is where Stoic philosophy comes in. A high-value woman doesn't flirt to win a man over. She flirts because she enjoys the interaction itself. She remains emotionally grounded, never desperate for his reaction. And beyond words, eye contact and body language are key. A confident smile, a slow nod, or a well-timed pause say more than any pickup line ever could. Attraction isn't built on words alone. It's built on presence, energy, and confidence. When you flirt with the right mindset, men feel it instantly. So ask yourself, are you flirting to impress, or are you flirting because you're enjoying the moment? Master this, and you'll see attraction tilt in your favor. Secret number 3. Why touching his hair at the right moment builds connection. Most women completely overlook this, but men love it when a woman knows how to touch their hair. When done at the right time, it's one of those small, seemingly insignificant gestures that can create an instant emotional connection. But if done wrong, it can feel awkward, forced, or even intrusive. The key lies in understanding why it works. The scalp is one of the most sensitive areas of the body, full of nerve endings that trigger deep emotional responses. A soft and precise stroke through his hair sends subtle yet powerful signals of intimacy, trust, and attraction. It's not just about the physical sensation, it's about the unspoken message it conveys. I see you, I'm present with you, and I'm in tune with your energy. But this is where most women go wrong. They either do it too quickly or mechanically, with no real connection behind the gesture. Touching his hair isn't about absent-mindedly playing with it. It's about creating a moment, building closeness through touch. Picture this. You're sitting with him, talking, and at just the right moment you gently brush a strand of hair away from his face. That simple action, done with intention and confidence, can say more than words ever could. Timing is everything, and this isn't something you do on a first date or before any emotional connection has been made. It works best when he already feels comfortable with you, when there's chemistry and warmth in the atmosphere. If he leans in slightly, if he smiles in a way that invites closeness, that's when you know it's the right moment. The worst thing you can do is force it when he's not ready. That's why presence and awareness are crucial. From a Stoic perspective, this ties into emotional intelligence and self-control. Stoicism teaches us to read situations without reacting impulsively, to remain in control rather than be controlled by desire. That means not reaching out just because you want to, but because it's the right time to create a connection. So the next time you're with a man and you feel the moment is right, don't underestimate the power of a simple stroke of his hair. When done with confidence and intention, it's one of those subtle, rare gestures that leaves a lasting impression. Secret number 4. The subtle power of a hand on his back. It might seem like a small and insignificant gesture, but it actually says a lot. A confident touch on the lower back of a man as you guide him through a crowd or while walking together communicates something deeply attractive: security, confidence, and connection. And yet most women overlook it or hesitate, unsure if they should do it. Men don't need grand displays of femininity to feel appreciated. They respond to subtle, instinctive signals that a woman is grounded, present, and capable of connecting. When you calmly and confidently place your hand on his back, you're communicating, without saying a word, that you are in control of yourself and the moment. It's not about dominance or control. It's about showing him through action that you're aware, grounded, and connecting with quiet confidence. But again, here's where many women go wrong. They hesitate too much, making the moment feel awkward, or they do it in a way that feels forced or unnatural. It's not about being possessive or seeking validation, it's about presence. When done correctly, the touch is gentle yet deliberate, brief but intentional, just enough for him to feel it and register your presence in a way that feels natural and effortless. Picture this: you're walking side by side, heading toward a restaurant entrance. As you take a step forward to open the door, your hand briefly rests on his lower back, just enough to guide him forward without breaking the flow of your walk. It's a moment of silent connection, a gesture that unconsciously assures him he's with a woman who moves with intention and poise. From a Stoic viewpoint, this is directly tied to self-mastery and emotional presence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good woman should be." A Stoic woman does not seek approval for her actions. She simply embodies strength, awareness, and calm control. When you place your hand on his back, you're not looking for a reaction. You are simply a woman with presence and confidence, and that alone is magnetic. In a world where most women are either too timid or too dominant, mastering the subtle balance of this simple yet powerful gesture sets you apart. It shows that you understand the perfect equilibrium between strength and tenderness. Secret number 5, being his support in the small things. Being supportive doesn't mean saving a man or acting like his personal caretaker. Today's men are independent, strong, and fully capable of handling their own challenges. But here's the secret. They still long for a woman who makes them feel valued, not in a dramatic or over-the-top way, but through small, consistent actions that show you're there for them, both emotionally and physically. Most women assume being supportive means stepping in during extreme situations, like when he's stressed or defending his honor in a grand display. But the truth is, it's the little things that build trust and attraction over time. How do you react when someone is rude to him? Do you make sure he feels heard without exaggerating? Do you support him in uncomfortable moments by offering silent but undeniable backup? Men notice and deeply appreciate these small signs of support. A woman who stays calm under pressure, handles situations with grace, and is present without being controlling, that's the kind of woman who makes a man feel truly valued. And in a world full of unpredictable people, emotional stability is rare and incredibly attractive. But let's be clear, being supportive doesn't mean taking control or making him feel incapable. It means you're someone he can rely on when it matters. A woman who doesn't panic, who doesn't escalate situations unnecessarily, but who also doesn't shrink away when strength is required. This is where Stoic philosophy becomes incredibly valuable. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." A Stoic woman is emotionally stable. She doesn't act out of impulse or insecurity. Instead, she observes, assesses, and responds with calm precision. And that is exactly what makes a man feel safe in her presence. When you embody this steady, serene energy, you immediately stand apart from the 99% of women who either overreact or fail to act at all. You become the one woman who doesn't just talk about being strong, she proves it. This technique is subtle but incredibly powerful, though most women overlook it. When done right, it creates an emotional bond that lingers in his mind far longer than any compliment ever could. Here's how it works. During a casual conversation, you say something like, "You know, I had the weirdest dream about you last night." Then, pause. Don't rush to explain. Let his curiosity grow naturally. 9 times out of 10, he'll lean in and ask, "Wait, really, what was it about?" The key is this: you don't need an elaborate or overly romantic situation. Keep it simple, light, and a little playful. Something like, "I don't remember all the details, but we were sitting at a cafe, talking about something deep, and it felt really natural." Observe what this achieves, and it subtly conveys the idea that you feel comfortable with him. It suggests that he occupies a space in your subconscious. It creates an unspoken bond between you. Men are more intuitive than we often give them credit for. They're drawn to the idea that you think of them naturally, not in a calculated way. A dream, something your subconscious created without your conscious control, carries enormous psychological weight. Unlike a rehearsed compliment, this approach feels genuinely spontaneous. It sparks his natural curiosity. He begins to wonder, why would she dream about me? What does that mean? The magic lies in what you don't say. By leaving space for his imagination, you create an emotional resonance that no direct compliment could ever achieve. This is the art of subtle psychological connection, making him feel special without trying too hard. This approach taps into something fundamental in male psychology, the power of mystery and emotional connection. Men want to feel special, but not in a generic, obvious way. When you casually mention that you dreamed about him, you create importance, impact, meaning, without expectation. What makes this so effective? It's unexpected. Most women never think to say it. It feels authentic. Dreams are subconscious, unplanned. It awakens natural curiosity. Now let's frame this with Stoic wisdom. A Stoic woman never begs for attention. Instead, she lets natural curiosity work in her favor. She understands that true attraction isn't about chasing, it's about creating irresistible intrigue. The key is subtlety. Don't overuse it, don't force it, wait for the right moment. When executed correctly, watch how he leans in more, holds eye contact longer, and begins to see you in a new light. Secret number 7. The primal power of a well-groomed personal style. Your appearance is not just a matter of fashion, it's a psychological trigger. Science shows that a well-maintained style subconsciously communicates strength, maturity, and confidence. These are primary signals of attraction, deeply rooted in male psychology since ancient times. When women used their appearance as a badge of honor, female leaders presented themselves with elegance to symbolize wisdom. Femininity was visually expressed. But here's the key distinction. It's not just about looking good, it's about disciplined care. A careless appearance signals neglect. A well-groomed style says, I respect myself and I command respect through my presence. This perfectly reflects Stoic philosophy. As Marcus Aurelius once observed, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Your outer appearance reflects your inner discipline. A well-groomed style isn't a coincidence, it's a statement of composure, a proof of patience, a display of self-mastery. You're not just presenting yourself well, you're creating the image of a woman who is in control of every aspect of her being. In a world full of girls who don't put in much effort, this clearly stands out, creating a strong presence. A well-groomed style doesn't just frame your face, it enhances your presence and defines your expressions. This creates a powerful psychological contrast that men find irresistible, elegance balanced with naturalness. Does this mean you need a sophisticated style to be attractive? Not at all. But if you take care of your appearance, it's a tool worth using. And if you already have your own style, consistent grooming can drastically change the way others, especially men, perceive you. By applying these secrets with confidence and ease, you now hold 7 powerful keys that most women overlook. Each of them activates deep psychological mechanisms, sparking trust, curiosity, and lasting attraction, all without excessive effort. The most important rule: never force it. Real attraction comes from presence, confidence, and self-awareness. If you do all of this mechanically, it will come across as unnatural. Instead, let these principles become a natural part of you. Look for spontaneous opportunities, the moment to gently touch him, to guide him, the right time for a flirty stroke of his hair, the perfect instant to mention a dream. The more natural it feels, the stronger the impact. And what's truly remarkable, these secrets don't just make you more attractive to men, they make you a better woman. When you cultivate confidence, presence, and self-control, you stand out in every area of life. And this is where Stoic philosophy becomes your greatest strength. A Stoic woman doesn't seek approval, she doesn't chase, she simply is. She walks with quiet confidence, she stays true to her values, and lets her presence speak for itself. She understands that true attraction doesn't come from tricks, it comes from who you choose to be in every moment. Now the decision is yours. Will you remain among the 99% of women who ignore these subtle signs of power, or will you apply what you've learned and join the 1% who truly understand attraction? If you're ready to start using these secrets, leave a comment below. Which insight surprised you the most? If this was valuable to you, click like, subscribe, and follow for more content that could change your life. This is just the beginning.
Let's begin with something you've probably never dared to consider with brutal honesty. Do you really believe that the events in your life are purely random? Think about those coincidences that left you frozen, those chance happenings that seem to flirt with the impossible. Do you truly think it's logical to see them as mere quirks of fate? Don't fool yourself. It's not chance. It's not coincidence. It's a silent call you've been ignoring for far too long. Synchronicity, the term Carl Gustav Jung gave us, isn't a theory for idle minds. It's a window into the deep architecture of the universe. A universe that isn't just chaotic machinery spinning without meaning, but a sensitive structure that responds to your internal state, to the vibration of your thoughts, to the hidden energy of your deepest desires. But here's what no one tells you. If you're not paying attention, if you let your mind drown in daily noise, those signals will pass unnoticed. They'll be like constellations you never bother to look at because you live with your eyes fixed on the ground. How many times have you felt the universe whispering something to you? How many times, just when you needed it most, did that person appear, that opportunity, that line in a forgotten book? Jung said, "Meaningful coincidences are mirrors of the soul, reflections of a hidden order connecting your inner world with the reality around you." This isn't cheap magic, it's deep psychology. It's the echo of your unconscious manifesting itself on the surface of the physical world. But here's the trap. If you insist on living solely from the rational mind, under the tyranny of cold logic, these connections dissolve like smoke. Let me put it another way. What if everything you've ever considered coincidence is actually a coded map? A map guiding you toward your true purpose. But to decode it, you have to awaken from your slumber. You have to sharpen your perception until you're able to detect the subtle signs life throws your way when you least expect it. And let me warn you, this is not a comfortable path. It's not for those who settle for the mediocrity of automatic existence. It's for those brave enough to look beyond the obvious. Did you know the human unconscious is a vast ocean where currents of intuition cross paths and defy all logic? The unconscious never sleeps. It's constantly tracking patterns beyond the reach of ordinary awareness. And that's exactly where synchronicities are born. Events don't align by chance. Your unconscious, with its infinite processing power, detects those connections before you do. The external world becomes a mirror of your inner landscape. When you align with your true essence, the universe responds. It always does. But few know how to listen. Imagine for a moment that every thought in your mind is a kind of silent magnet, attracting events that vibrate on the same frequency. This isn't poetic metaphor. It's an accurate description of how your psyche interacts with your environment. What you believe, what you feel with visceral intensity, becomes a silent command to the universe, and it responds, but not like a blind machine. It responds like a deep intelligence, orchestrating events with a precision that defies all rational explanation. Let me be clear. Life is not a random string of circumstances. It's a carefully woven narrative, waiting for you to read it with wide open eyes. But most people prefer to close their eyes and keep stumbling over the same stones. They'd rather believe in the tyranny of chance, because that way they don't have to accept the terrifying responsibility of being the co-creator of their destiny. It's easier to think everything's a coincidence than to accept we are the architects of our own reality. There are people who, in moments of absolute despair, have seen doors open that shouldn't have even existed. People who are on the edge of the abyss, and suddenly an improbable coincidence saved them from the final fall. Coincidence? Not a chance. It was synchronicity, reaching out at the crucial moment. The universe saying, "This is not your end. There's still something for you to discover, something to live. But I warn you, these signs are not eternal. If you ignore them systematically, if you refuse to listen, they will fade away. The universe doesn't shout, it whispers. And if you don't tune in your inner ear, you'll lose the connection. You'll live in a state of existential deafness, dragging yourself through a life that feels empty, because deep down, you've disconnected from the very source that gives it meaning. Jung's psychology wasn't just an intellectual curiosity. It was a compass for navigating the chaos of existence. He realized the symbols in our dreams and the coincidences that emerge are part of the same secret language. A language that, if you learn to decipher, reveals the path to your deepest purpose. Think about it. What's the point of living numbed by routine, repeating patterns that lead nowhere, when the universe constantly offers clues to change your course? You're surrounded by signs, but you'll only see them if you step out of autopilot. Only if you have the courage to ask, what is life trying to tell me right now? There's a reason why people who follow their intuition seem to have almost supernatural luck, but it's not luck. It's a heightened sensitivity to synchronicities that others ignore. They don't wait for logic to give them permission to act. They feel, they sense, they leap. And in doing so, they open doors invisible to others. That's the key that can transform your life. When you live in harmony with synchronicity, you stop chasing results. Instead, the results start chasing you. The right people, the right opportunities, the unexpected paths start showing up with eerie precision. Not because you forced anything, but because you became a living magnet for experiences that align with your true nature. Let me propose something radical. Over the next few days, observe. Don't just look. Truly observe. Pay attention to those coincidences that seem too perfect to be random. Ask yourself what hidden meaning they might carry, and most importantly, act on them. Don't let fear paralyze you in front of the possibility that life is guiding you. Because here comes the fascinating part. When you respond to these signals, when you follow them, without questioning from rigid logic, something extraordinary happens. Your life begins to align with a flow that once seemed impossible. Obstacles vanish, doubts clear up, and for the first time in a long time, you feel like you're part of something infinitely greater than yourself. Are you willing to live that way? Are you ready to let go of the false safety of linear causality and embrace the mysterious dance of synchronicity? Because if you do, get ready. Get ready for the universe to surprise you in ways even your boldest imagination couldn't predict. This isn't magic. It's not superstition. It's about understanding that reality responds to the whispers of your soul. It's about accepting that every thought, every emotion, every genuine desire sends a signal the universe picks up and reflects back through the events in your life. So open your eyes, sharpen your intuition, listen to the silent language all around you. Life is no accident. Life is a constant dialogue between your inner world and the cosmos. The real question is, are you truly listening? Now here's something almost no one dares to consider when we talk about synchronicity, the role of repressed emotions in the creation of these coincidences. Because let me tell you, the conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg. It's in the hidden depths of the psyche where the real connections that shape your reality are forged. The emotions you don't express, the ones you bury out of fear or shame, don't vanish. They become latent energy, still sending signals to the universe without your awareness. And those signals, even if ignored, are received. That's why life often places you in situations that stir up the very feelings you thought were buried, not to punish you, but to make you finally see them, to face them once and for all. Ever found yourself attracting the same kind of people again and again, repeating relationship patterns that end the same, even if the faces change? It's not bad luck. It's not coincidence. It's the external projection of an unresolved inner conflict. Jung called it the confrontation with the shadow. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, arranges the perfect stage for you to face your wounds. And the more you resist, the louder the signals get. At first, they're subtle, almost unnoticeable. But if you keep ignoring them, I guarantee they'll explode in front of you with a force impossible to ignore. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it doesn't want you living a half-lived life. It wants to push you, painfully if necessary, toward your full realization. What's fascinating is that these experiences don't just show you who you are. They reveal who you could become if you dared to interpret them correctly. Synchronicity isn't just a mirror, it's also a door, one that opens to unexplored territories of your human potential. Every meaningful coincidence not only reflects you, it calls you to evolve. Now I want you to consider an even deeper angle, the link between synchronicity and dreams. Because dreams aren't just nighttime fantasies, they are the soul's laboratory. In them, your unconscious plays out symbols that often show up again in waking life through synchronicities. Has it ever happened to you that you dream of something, an image, a person, a place, and days later, without any rational explanation, you come across it in real life? That's no accident. That's the outer manifestation of a message from within, trying to reach full awareness. The unconscious is always looking for ways to show you what you don't want, or don't know, how to see directly. That's why dreams and synchronicities aren't separate phenomena. They're chapters from the same hidden book you're meant to read. Think of it this way. Your psyche doesn't recognize borders between internal and external. To it, everything is part of a single playing field. So when you ignore what your inner world tries to tell you in dreams, life will show it to you through external events with synchronistic force. It's like the universe saying, "You didn't hear the whisper, here's the shout." But wait, there's something even more intriguing, something that borders on the mystical, yet stands firm in deep psychology. Intuition as your compass to navigate synchronicity. Because intuition isn't magic. It's a biological radar system that detects patterns before your rational mind can understand them. The great minds in history, visionaries who changed the course of humanity, relied fully on this inner compass, not because they rejected reason, but because they understood reason is slow, limited, and sometimes blind. Intuition allows you to anticipate synchronicities, to feel them coming like an electric current before the storm. It's that unexplainable hunch that urges you to shift direction at just the right moment, to make decisions that defy logic, but somehow turn out to be the right ones. Listen carefully. The more you train your intuition, the more precise the coincidences become in your life, as if the universe rewards your ability to listen by sharpening even more the symbolic language it uses to guide you. This isn't fantasy. It's the culmination of a deep dialogue between your subconscious mind and the sensitive structure of reality. And here's where another dimension emerges, one that very few dare to explore: psychological time. Because synchronicities don't obey the rigid timeline most people assume as the only one. They operate in what we might call soul time, where past, present, and future weave together so that future events send echoes to the present, and present choices rewrite past experiences. Yes, what you've lived through gets reinterpreted in the light of new coincidences that completely reshape your personal story. Once you understand this, you stop seeing your life as a series of disconnected events and begin to understand it as a network of meanings constantly evolving. And in that moment, true alchemy begins. You start seeing patterns where there was once only chaos. You realize that nothing has been in vain, that every experience, no matter how painful or confusing, was quietly weaving the fabric of your purpose. But don't stop there. There's one last piece of this puzzle you need to understand. Synchronicity doesn't just connect you with your own unconscious, it connects you with the collective unconscious. Jung spoke of this to describe the vast psychic ocean we all share, a universal memory that transcends cultures, times, and borders, storing the fundamental archetypes of human experience. When you experience a meaningful coincidence, you're not just connecting with your personal story. You're touching the deep currents of human history. You're reaching a level where your individual choices intertwine with the great collective narratives. That's why, sometimes, a synchronicity doesn't just feel relevant to you. It carries a broader echo, as if it's part of a greater cosmic symphony you can't fully hear, but can feel vibrating through every cell of your being. So here's a direct, uncomfortable, but necessary question. Are you going to keep walking like a blind spectator through the theater of life? Or will you dare to read the hidden script unfolding before your eyes? Because once you cross the threshold of ordinary perception and enter the dance of synchronicities, there's no turning back. Life stops being an accident and becomes a masterpiece under constant construction. And you are the artist. Never forget that. But wait, there's something else you may not have considered, something crucial to conclude this journey we've taken together. There's a phenomenon, a silent secret, the ability to actively create your own synchronicities. Yes, you heard that right. It's not just about observing them, not just about decoding them, but consciously provoking them. How? By changing your internal frequency. Because the universe, the one that answers with such precise signals, doesn't distinguish between what you desire and what you fear. It responds to your dominant energy. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, guilt, and resentment, guess what kind of coincidences you'll start to attract? Exactly, the ones that reinforce that same limiting narrative. But if you manage, and I say this with absolute certainty, if you manage to live in a mental state of openness, of genuine curiosity about life, of total trust in your path, then you start moving the invisible threads that activate synchronicities in your favor. And now, I'll drop the final revelation. When this happens, the boundary between what you dream and what you live begins to blur. What once felt like a distant wish starts to materialize in ways your logical mind could never plan. Life stops being a series of random obstacles, and becomes an intimate dialogue between you and the universe. The key is realizing you're not a victim of circumstances. You are an active participant in the cosmic conversation. What you think, what you deeply feel, what you vividly imagine, gets picked up by that invisible network holding reality together. Every day is a question you send out to the universe, and every synchronicity is a reply filled with meaning, if you know how to look. Look, I don't want this video to end as just another reflection you hear and forget. I want you to close this video and start seeing your life with new eyes. I want you to dare to play with reality like a modern alchemist, turning every experience into a clue leading to your hidden purpose. Do me a favor. When you finish this video, don't leave without dropping a comment with a phrase that captures this awakening. Something like, "The universe always responds," or if you're ready to go even deeper, "I am the author of my own coincidences. I want to read you. I want to feel this conversation stretch far beyond the screen, to become something more than just words." If this journey through the folds of synchronicity has resonated with you, even in the smallest way, then I invite you, no, I urge you, to subscribe. Because what we're doing here, this isn't just another video on the internet. This is a shared exploration into the most mysterious and fascinating realms of the human mind and the reality we are co-creating moment by moment. This isn't entertainment. It's a portal, a mirror, a signal. Believe me when I say this. What's coming after this video will blow your mind even more. We're just scratching the surface of something much, much bigger. So turn on that notification bell, stay close, and walk this path with me. Because I promise you, this is just the beginning. And now, before we part ways, for now, I won't just say, "See you next time." I want to leave you with something deeper. The next time something happens in your life that feels too perfect to be random, too aligned to be coincidence, I want you to remember these words. I want you to pause, smile, say nothing, and think to yourself, "I saw it coming." Because from today on, you won't walk blindly through a world of signs and symbols. From now on, you'll walk as a conscious traveler, an awakened soul, reading the secret language of the universe. I'll see you in the next Synchronicity.
When everything seems to be falling apart and the pieces of your life no longer fit, it's natural to feel hopeless. But in those dark moments, when the world appears to have abandoned you, lies a unique opportunity to discover the transformative power within you. Carl Jung dedicated his life to exploring the depths of the human mind, leaving us with a clear message. Chaos is not the end. It is the beginning of something extraordinary. We often face situations that seem to break us completely. Relationships that crumble, dreams that don't come true, challenges that overwhelm us. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing we are victims of external circumstances, that there is no way out. But Jung taught us that within that pain lies a profound calling, a call to love ourselves, to closely examine the parts of us we prefer to ignore, and to find purpose behind suffering. Pain and confusion are not punishments. They are gateways to radical transformation. It is as if life, in its infinite wisdom, pushes us into a corner so that we stop running from our truth. In those moments, the key is not to seek external solutions, but to turn inward. Jung said, "What we do not confront in our minds, we will encounter as fate." This means that if we continue to ignore our shadows, they will manifest in our reality, forcing us to face them one way or another. Think about those times when the same type of problem keeps repeating in your life. Toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, friendships that drain your energy. This is not a coincidence. These are reflections of unresolved aspects within you. Jung called this a projection of the unconscious, what we fail to recognize in ourselves, we see reflected in the external world. But here's the great news. Once we become aware of it, we can begin to change our reality. True power lies in daring to look within. This is not an easy path. It takes courage to face our wounds, our insecurities, and those parts of ourselves we have repressed because we believe they are unworthy of being seen. Yet, it is precisely within those shadows that our greatest power resides. Jung put it beautifully. Light cannot exist without shadow, meaning that to discover our true essence, we must embrace both our light and our darkness. Imagine for a moment that your life is a canvas. Every experience, every emotion, every relationship is a brushstroke. But too often we paint with fear, following patterns that do not belong to us, creating a masterpiece that does not reflect our truth. What would happen if you let go of those fears? If you stopped worrying about fitting in and started creating from a place of authenticity? This is a challenge Jung presents to us. To stop being a mere copy of what the world expects from us and instead become the masterpiece we are destined to be. Jung believed that to transform our lives, we must first confront what he called the shadow. This shadow is nothing more than everything we deny, repress, or fear within ourselves. Those parts we prefer to hide, that make us uncomfortable, and that we have learned to push into the unconscious because they do not fit the image we want to project to the world. But ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. On the contrary, it gives it even more power over our lives. It manifests in behavioral patterns, in decisions we don't understand, and in relationships that seem to repeat the same conflicts. It is as if we carry an invisible backpack filled with everything we reject about ourselves, and each time we avoid facing that burden, the backpack becomes heavier. The result? We feel trapped, exhausted, and without direction. Here lies the secret that Jung revealed to us. Integrating the shadow is not a punishment. It is a liberating act. By recognizing and accepting these aspects of ourselves, we stop fighting against what we are and begin to walk in harmony with our truth. However, this process does not happen automatically. It requires willpower and courage to face what we have been avoiding. Ask yourself, what parts of yourself are you repressing? What aspects of your personality, your desires, or even your fears have you not allowed yourself to explore? Jung believed that by integrating these shadows, we discover an inexhaustible source of power and creativity. It is as if by illuminating what was hidden, anger, fear, sadness, these emotions become signals from the unconscious, alerting us to something that needs attention. Instead of repressing them, we can explore them with curiosity and openness. What are they trying to tell you? What wounds or unmet needs are they revealing? It is also important to observe our projections. Have you noticed how certain people seem to trigger disproportionate reactions in you? Maybe someone irritates you deeply for no apparent reason, or you feel extreme admiration for someone you just met. These reactions are not random. They are mirrors of parts of your own psyche. Jung said that what we see in others, both what we love and what we detest, is a reflection of what we carry within. When we start working with our shadow, something magical happens. Relationships begin to transform because we no longer use them to project our wounds or deficiencies. Instead of seeking others to fill our voids, we approach them from a place of wholeness. This shift not only improves our connections with others, but also allows us to live with more authenticity and freedom. Jung also taught that in a moment of crisis, when everything seems broken, lies the greatest opportunity for growth. Crisis is not the end. It is an invitation to evolve. It is like the alchemical process that fascinated Jung so much. The lead of our wounds and shadows can be transformed into the gold of our wholeness. But this transformation requires patience, introspection, and a genuine commitment to personal growth. Imagine walking through a dark forest filled with uncertainty and fear. It is tempting to turn back and return to the safety of the known. But if you have the courage to move forward, you will eventually find a clearing, a place of light and serenity. This is a journey toward your authenticity. The initial darkness is only a phase, a necessary step to reach clarity and inner peace. Along the way, learning to let go is essential. Often, we cling to people, situations, or beliefs that no longer serve us simply because we fear the unknown. But Jung reminds us that the emptiness left by letting go is not something to fear. It is a sacred space where the new can flourish. By releasing what no longer aligns with our essence, we make room for relationships, opportunities, and experiences that truly resonate with who we are. As we delve deeper into Jung's teachings, we realize that letting go of what no longer resonates with us is not an act of weakness, but of courage. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to stay busy, to hold on to things, people, and beliefs, even when they exhaust us. But by clinging, what we are really doing is distancing ourselves from our essence. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of trust in life, in our potential, and in the process of transformation. Jung understood that for something new to be born, something old must die. This does not mean abandoning everything we know abruptly, but rather being willing to let go of what no longer adds value. This process can be painful, but it is also profoundly liberating. Every time we release something that does not belong to us, we reclaim a part of ourselves, reconnect with our authenticity, and open the door to new possibilities. The challenge, however, lies in overcoming the fear of change. Jung said that change is not easy because our psyche is designed to seek security and stability. But personal growth rarely occurs in comfort zones. It is in uncertainty, in the unknown, where we find our greatest opportunities for development. Imagine a plant that must break through the hard surface of the earth to reach the sunlight. That is our growth process, a constant effort to break internal barriers and reveal our true selves. A central element of Jung's ideas is the concept of individuation, which is a process of becoming who you truly are. Individuation is not merely about achieving external goals or meeting societal expectations. It is a journey toward self-knowledge, toward integrating all parts of our psyche, including those we have rejected. It is a process that leads us to discover our uniqueness, recognize our strengths, and accept our weaknesses. On this journey, our connection with the unconscious plays a crucial role. The unconscious is not just a place where our fears and repressed desires hide. It is also a source of infinite wisdom. It speaks to us through dreams, symbols, and emotions. Jung believed that dreams are a window to the soul. Each dream contains important messages about our inner state and unmet needs. Paying attention to them and reflecting on their meaning can help us find answers and guidance in moments of confusion. For example, if you dream of being lost in a labyrinth, it could be a sign that you feel trapped in a situation in your life, unable to find a way out. Or if you dream of moving water, it might symbolize emotions that you need to process or release. Jung encouraged exploring these symbols and working with them to discover what they are trying to communicate to us. Dreams are like letters written by our soul, waiting for us to read them with attention and care. Beyond dreams, synchronicities play an important role in the path to authenticity. Synchronicities are seemingly random but deeply meaningful events that Jung described as significant coincidences. These occur when the external world appears to align with our inner world, as if the universe were conspiring to guide us toward our purpose. It could be meeting someone who has exactly the advice you need, or discovering a book that seems to answer your deepest questions. These signs should not be ignored. They are indicators that you are on the right path. But to experience these synchronicities, we must be open and receptive. We must trust our intuition and pay attention to the subtle signals around us. Jung believed that intuition is a powerful tool we all possess, but often neglect in favor of logic and reason. However, in moments of uncertainty, our intuition can be our best guide. It is that quiet voice that tells us which path to take, even when it seems illogical or risky. When we begin to live from this place of connection with our inner selves, something remarkable happens. Our relationships, decisions, and experiences start aligning with our truth. The right people enter our lives. The opportunities that truly resonate with us present themselves, and our energy is renewed. It is as if, by tuning into our essence, the outer world responds in harmony. However, this path is not without challenges. There will be moments of doubt, times when you'll feel tempted to return to old patterns or settle for familiar. But remember, every step you take toward your authenticity is an act of self-love. It is a reminder that you deserve a fulfilling life, a life that reflects who you truly are. This process of transformation is like the journey of a hero in an epic story. At first, it may seem overwhelming, filled with uncertainty and fear. But as you move forward, you discover a strength within yourself that you never knew you had. Along the way, you find allies, people and experiences that support your growth. And in the end, you return to yourself stronger, wiser, and more connected to your essence. Jung taught us that life is not about eliminating chaos, but about finding order within it. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we carry within us a light that never fades. That light is our essence, our truth, our connection to something greater than ourselves. At the core of Carl Jung's philosophy lies a profoundly transformative idea, the integration of dualities within us. This integration, known as the process of individuation, is not an immediate destination, but an ongoing journey of self-discovery and acceptance. Here lies one of Jung's greatest lessons. We are not simple beings, but complex and multifaceted, and our wholeness depends on our ability to embrace that complexity. The individuation process involves reconciling seemingly opposing aspects of our psyche: shadow and light, reason and emotion, the conscious and the unconscious. Jung believed that inner peace is not achieved by eliminating conflict, but by embracing it and learning to navigate through it. Facing our internal contradictions may seem overwhelming, but it is essential to unlocking the full potential of our humanity. In everyday life, this means accepting emotions we usually reject. Perhaps you feel anger, jealousy, or sadness, emotions often perceived as negative. But these are not enemies, they are teachers. Each emotion carries a message, and by acknowledging them instead of repressing them, we gain insight into what our soul needs to heal and grow. Jung also spoke of the self as the core of our psyche, the center where all our parts unify. Achieving a deeper connection with the self requires courage and complete openness to explore our inner world. It is like diving into the depths of an unknown ocean, confronting what we have ignored or feared, but also discovering treasures we never knew existed. One of the greatest challenges in this process is facing projections we cast onto others. Often, the qualities we admire or despise in others reflect aspects of ourselves. For instance, if someone's arrogance constantly irritates you, Jung would suggest looking inward. Perhaps there is a suppressed arrogance within you, or a hidden fear being perceived that way. By recognizing our projections, we not only heal our relationships, but also progress on our path toward individuation. This journey is not a solitary one. While introspection is essential, we also need the support and connection of others to evolve. Authentic relationships, those where we can be ourselves without fear of judgment, are fundamental to our growth. Jung believed that every human encounter is an opportunity to learn something new about ourselves. The people who enter our lives, whether for a brief moment or for years, serve as mirrors reflecting aspects of our psyche. On this path to authenticity, we must also remember the power of myths and archetypes. Jung discovered that the human psyche is deeply influenced by universal stories that repeat across cultures and eras. These archetypes, such as a hero, the mentor, the wise one, or the shadow, are present not only in mythology, but also in our own lives. Recognizing these patterns in our experiences helps us better understand our role in the broader narrative of existence. For example, if you feel trapped in a cycle of suffering, you might be experiencing the hero's journey, an archetype where the protagonist faces seemingly insurmountable challenges only to emerge stronger and transformed. Recognizing this pattern can give you the strength to continue, knowing that even in the darkest moments, you are moving toward a more authentic version of yourself. The connection with archetypes also helps us find meaning in our struggles. Jung believed that meaning is essential to human life. Without it, we feel lost and disconnected. But when we find purpose in our experiences, even the most difficult ones, we can transform pain into growth and uncertainty into opportunity. That is why, whenever you face a loss, a failure, or a moment of doubt, remember that these are not insurmountable obstacles, but necessary parts of your journey toward individuation. They are challenges designed to help you discover the depth and richness of your inner being. And while this path may sometimes feel lonely, it is not. Every step you take toward authenticity not only transforms you, but also inspires and elevates those around you. As we delve deeper into Jung's teachings, we realize that the journey to authenticity is not just personal, but also collective. Humanity as a whole faces challenges that reflect the inner conflicts of each individual. Jung believed that the collective unconscious, this shared reservoir of archetypes and human experiences, shapes our lives in ways we often do not recognize. By working on our own individuation, we do not only heal our inner selves, but also contribute to the healing of society. This is especially relevant in times of crisis when it seems that the entire world is on the brink of collapse. Collective crises, like personal ones, are opportunities for rebirth. Jung maintained that in moments of greatest disorder, the potential for meaningful change is at its highest. This applies both to our individual lives and to global dynamics. If everything feels broken, it is because something new is trying to emerge. In our personal lives, this rebirth can manifest as a spiritual awakening, a change in direction, or a newfound understanding of ourselves. But for this to happen, we must be willing to face what Jung called the process of nigredo. This concept, borrowed from alchemy, describes the initial stage of decomposition and chaos that precedes the creation of something new. In psychological terms, it is a moment when we confront our shadows, wounds, and limiting beliefs. Imagine being in a room filled with clutter. Some objects hold significant value, while others are merely accumulated waste. To find what is truly valuable, you must first clear the chaos. This process may be uncomfortable, but it is essential. The same happens in our psyche. We need to confront and release what no longer serves us to uncover what truly matters. As we progress through this process, we begin to experience a phenomenon Jung described as symbols of transformation. These symbols appear in dreams, thoughts, and even daily experiences, acting as guides on our journey. They may take the form of recurring images, words that deeply resonate, or events that seem to carry a special meaning. Paying attention to these symbols and reflecting on their significance helps us move forward with greater clarity and purpose. The integration of symbols and unconscious experiences into our conscious lives When everything seems to be falling apart and the pieces of your life no longer fit, it's natural to feel hopeless. But in those dark moments, when the world appears to have abandoned you, lies a unique opportunity to discover the transformative power within you. Carl Jung dedicated his life to exploring the depths of the human mind, leaving us with a clear message. Chaos is not the end. It is the beginning of something extraordinary. We often face situations that seem to break us completely. Relationships that crumble, dreams that don't come true, challenges that overwhelm us. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing we are victims of external circumstances, that there is no way out. But Jung taught us that within that pain lies a profound calling, a call to love ourselves, to closely examine the parts of us we prefer to ignore, and to find purpose behind suffering. Pain and confusion are not punishments. They are gateways to radical transformation. It is as if life, in its infinite wisdom, pushes us into a corner so that we stop running from our truth. In those moments, the key is not to seek external solutions, but to turn inward. Jung said, "What we do not confront in our minds, we will encounter as fate." This means that if we continue to ignore our shadows, they will manifest in our reality, forcing us to face them one way or another. Think about those times when the same type of problem keeps repeating in your life. Toxic relationships, unfulfilling jobs, friendships that drain your energy. This is not a coincidence. These are reflections of unresolved aspects within you. Jung called this a projection of the unconscious. What we fail to recognize in ourselves, we see reflected in the external world. But here's the great news. Once we become aware of it, we can begin to change our reality. True power lies in daring to look within. This is not an easy path. It takes courage to face our wounds, our insecurities, and those parts of ourselves we have repressed because we believe they are unworthy of being seen. Yet, it is precisely within those shadows that our greatest power resides. Jung put it beautifully. Light cannot exist without shadow, meaning that to discover our true essence, we must embrace both our light and our darkness. Imagine for a moment that your life is a canvas. Every experience, every emotion, every relationship is a brushstroke. But too often we paint with fear, following patterns that do not belong to us, creating a masterpiece that does not reflect our truth. What would happen if you let go of those fears? If you stopped worrying about fitting in and started creating from a place of authenticity? This is a challenge Jung presents to us. To stop being a mere copy of what the world expects from us and instead become the masterpiece we are destined to be. Jung believed that to transform our lives, we must first confront what he called the shadow. This shadow is nothing more than everything we deny, repress, or fear within ourselves. Those parts we prefer to hide, that make us uncomfortable, and that we have learned to push into the unconscious because they do not fit the image we want to project to the world. But ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. On the contrary, it gives it even more power over our lives. It manifests in behavioral patterns, in decisions we don't understand, and in relationships that seem to repeat the same conflicts. It is as if we carry an invisible backpack filled with everything we reject about ourselves, and each time we avoid facing that burden, the backpack becomes heavier. The result? We feel trapped, exhausted, and without direction. Here lies the secret that Jung revealed to us. Integrating the shadow is not a punishment. It is a liberating act. By recognizing and accepting these aspects of ourselves, we stop fighting against what we are and begin to walk in harmony with our truth. However, this process does not happen automatically. It requires willpower and courage to face what we have been avoiding. Ask yourself, what parts of yourself are you repressing? What aspects of your personality, your desires, or even your fears have you not allowed yourself to explore? Jung believed that by integrating these shadows, we discover an inexhaustible source of power and creativity. It is as if by illuminating what was hidden, anger, fear, sadness, these emotions become signals from the unconscious, alerting us to something that needs attention. Instead of repressing them, we can explore them with curiosity and openness. What are they trying to tell you? What wounds or unmet needs are they revealing? It is also important to observe our projections. Have you noticed how certain people seem to trigger disproportionate reactions in you? Maybe someone irritates you deeply for no apparent reason, or you feel extreme admiration for someone you just met. These reactions are not random. They are mirrors of parts of your own psyche. Jung said that what we see in others, both what we love and what we detest, is a reflection of what we carry within. When we start working with our shadow, something magical happens. Relationships begin to transform because we no longer use them to project our wounds or deficiencies. Instead of seeking others to fill our voids, we approach them from a place of wholeness. This shift not only improves our connections with others, but also allows us to live with more authenticity and freedom. Jung also taught that in a moment of crisis, when everything seems broken, lies the greatest opportunity for growth. Crisis is not the end. It is an invitation to evolve. It is like the alchemical process that fascinated Jung so much. The lead of our wounds and shadows can be transformed into the gold of our wholeness. But this transformation requires patience, introspection, and a genuine commitment to personal growth. Imagine walking through a dark forest filled with uncertainty and fear. It is tempting to turn back and return to the safety of the known. But if you have the courage to move forward, you will eventually find a clearing, a place of light and serenity. This is a journey toward your authenticity. The initial darkness is only a phase, a necessary step to reach clarity and inner peace. Along the way, learning to let go is essential. Often, we cling to people, situations, or beliefs that no longer serve us simply because we fear the unknown. But Jung reminds us that the emptiness left by letting go is not something to fear. It is a sacred space where the new can flourish. By releasing what no longer aligns with our essence, we make room for relationships, opportunities, and experiences that truly resonate with who we are. As we delve deeper into Jung's teachings, we realize that letting go of what no longer resonates with us is not an act of weakness, but of courage. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to stay busy, to hold on to things, people, and beliefs, even when they exhaust us. But by clinging, what we are really doing is distancing ourselves from our essence. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of trust in life, in our potential, and in the process of transformation. Jung understood that for something new to be born, something old must die. This does not mean abandoning everything we know abruptly, but rather being willing to let go of what no longer adds value. This process can be painful, but it is also profoundly liberating. Every time we release something that does not belong to us, we reclaim a part of ourselves, reconnect with our authenticity, and open the door to new possibilities. The challenge, however, lies in overcoming the fear of change. Jung said that change is not easy because our psyche is designed to seek security and stability. But personal growth rarely occurs in comfort zones. It is an uncertainty in the unknown where we find our greatest opportunities for development. Imagine a plant that